Accepting the award this evening on behalf of his father, please welcome Paul Monico.
Well, thank you for those kind words and the montage. I hope you all enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen and other honored guests here tonight, on behalf of the entire Monico family, some of whom are here with us tonight, I'm proud to accept this honor on behalf of my dad, Domenic Berdie Monico, who passed away in 1980. My mom, Mercedes Jagir Monico, who's now 97 and living in Stratton, Vermont, can't be here to accept this honor. So on her behalf, I would like to tell you a little bit about my dad. My dad was a hometown hero. I grew up listening to stories and recounts of those days of Bristol's role in the early years of national football fame, as related to me by my father. For a decade, as you heard, he was a renowned tackler for the Bristol West Enders. He was a humble man, and throughout his life in Bristol, remained proud of his accomplishments on the gridiron as a hero whose presence was always felt by the opposing team on every Sunday. When I was younger, I recall the respect and admiration my father was given by fellow townspeople because of his football achievements. He had earned their respect on the field. Today, there are only snippets of his story that I can recall, and as I did research on this, some microfiche up in Bristol Library a few years back, I recall how he'd been recruited to play at Elon College in North Carolina, but he refused to because he was going to get married, which was lucky for me. How over his career, every finger on both of his hands had been broken, and they didn't set things too well then. They were wearing leather helmets, and he couldn't straighten them out when he used to show them to me. How he'd been honored, as you heard, as an All-East football team member as right tackle in 1937, and how he'd spent one night as a dinner and overnight guest with Vince and Marie Lombardi when he visited them in New York. His story, however, began at Park Street in 1913, where he was born, right next to Muzzy Field. His early upbringing was, to say the least, difficult. Along with his family, he moved around a lot, from Park Street, where he was born, to Sheffield, Mass., Canaan, Connecticut, a farm in Great Barrington, Vermont for many years, Terryville, and then back on Old Wilkett Road in Bristol once again. His education was understandably then fragmented. He attended grammar school only through the 6th grade, and that was because the schoolhouse only had 6 grades, and as a consequence, they threatened to have him repeat the 5th grade. So he thought it was time to get out, so he left school to support his mom and the rest of the family, brother and sisters, 7 brothers and 3 sisters, some of which were still at home. Among his other endeavors, my dad was a construction laborer alongside of his brothers Pete and Frank and Peck. He had a short stint with the Bristol Fire Department, and he was a police officer, Monico, for the Bristol Police Department for a while. He didn't like arresting people, so he gave that up. General Motors, the new departure division, however, became his steady place of employment, supplementing his own construction business on nights and weekends. He was Italian, and so are we. That's how I'll always remember my dad. He was either driving his truck for GM or his big blue dump truck on nights and weekends after work. As far as I can tell, the strong, scrappy, curly-haired Italian played with the Enders minus any previous football experience, as you heard, when he started in 16 years old, about 1929, and quickly rose to football stardom throughout the Northeast. The Bristol Athletic Clubhouse was located on Divinity Street in the Bristol's West End, a few doors away from where I remember Novak's Pharmacy once occupied when I used to live here. I come back, everything's changed. The team consisted of about 20 players, including, for the most part, former college players recruited from within the borders of Connecticut, and their games were at Muzzy Field. You have to realize that this was a time before television and Xbox and a simpler time. It was a time when Bristol's Muzzy Field would reverberate with about 5,000 to 7,000 hometown spectators every Sunday afternoon at a football game. when the halftime saw the award of 25 gallons of kerosene heating oil, or maybe 10 gallons of gasoline to some lucky spectator. It was a time before any specialty teams. My dad played both offense and defense. And it was a time when player number 14 controlled the line of scrimmage and ruled the field for an entire 60 minutes of play, as was said earlier. The famed West End Athletic Club team he starred on competed against top semi-pro teams from across the Northeast and throughout the country. Among these were the Fordham Collegians with Vince Lombardi as right guard, Leo Paquin east the left end, and Nate Pierce as left guard, all of the Fordham 7 blocks of granite fame. He played the Los Angeles Bulldogs, the Brooklyn Eagles, the New York Blackhawks, and their arch rivals, the Danbury Trojans, just to name a few, many of which were forerunners to NFL teams later on. His first year out, Bill Flynn, who was then coach of the Bristol 11, used Berdie as a reserve end. The next year, in 1930, my dad was switched to the tackle position, right tackle, and that's where he found his own. He soon matured into the West Enders' preeminent linesman, filling the positions of right tackle and right guard. He remained the bulwark of both defense and offensive lines throughout the remainder of his illustrious career and the heydays of the Bristol West End Athletic Club football team. Team manager Henry Brophy referred to my dad as the big fella and the key to their line. In the September 1937 program that I came across against the LA Bulldogs, my dad broke his arm, and according to the news accounts, the team lost the service of their linemen, their outstanding linemen for that season. According to the Bristol Press, I found this snippet. They don't say much about linesmen, mostly the quarterbacks and things like that. So historical events with Dad gone were hard to come across. But they were playing the defending champions of the American Professional Football League, and they were unable to advance through the line because of Berdie, Monico, it said, and they were forced to take to the air. So while the folks like the Iron Horseman, Lou Gehrig, the Yankee Clipper Joe DiMaggio, and Lefty Gomez were playing for the New York Giants in the 1937 World Series, my dad was competitively selected and won appointment to the honorary All-East football team as right tackle, and in recognition of this achievement, he was honored with a silver football. Where that is today, we have no idea. In 1938, the managers of several Connecticut teams, recognizing the need for organized football in Connecticut, promoting, quote, for wholeness and high-class football entertainment for the Connecticut public, they held a meeting in January of '39 in New Haven, Connecticut, to organize professional football teams for Connecticut. Under the leadership of Rebel Carpenter, president of the West End Athletic Club, Henry Brophy, the manager, and Joseph Sugar Hugert, who I see is also been an inductee, who was the playing captain at that time for the team. My dad was inducted as a charter member to that professional league in January of '39. In its day, this league represented the highest level of football played in the nation. It basically was the NFL in the post-Depression period. A weekend game at Muzzy Field for a few hours would always take your mind off of bad times from the Depression. Berdie Monico, my dad, was my hero and a sports hero to many Bristolites. While throughout my early days, I enjoyed the limelight of the special honors he enjoyed throughout his life due to his earlier football prowess. I regret never having seen him play out in the field. All told, Dad played about 10 years, but it sustained him throughout his lifetime. So in memory, therefore, on behalf, while the archive of our memories are still vibrant as he and his teammates were on each of those Sunday afternoons long ago, I and my entire family thank you on the occasion of this, his induction into the Bristol Hall of Fame, in recognition of the outstanding contribution he made to city pride and to sports entertainment he afforded Bristol and its fans throughout his football career. Thank you for allowing his memory to live on through his induction tonight in the Bristol Sports Hall of Fame.